Record to the cloud. Okay, there we go. So today we are going to be talking about the Oura Ring, which is something that I've kind of had my eye on for a while. I'm gonna also share my screen, by the way, right here. Can everyone see? Do I have the right screen up?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes. Okay, good. Um, so anyways, I like can get kind of like geeky with tech stuff, and especially when that world collides with like health and fitness, I get super curious. And so the Oura Ring has been out for a little while, but I feel like, I don't know, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. It's maybe not as well known as like the Whoop bands, especially if you come from like the CrossFit world. Um, the Whoop band is just like a little bit more infiltrated, I feel like. I haven't used the Whoop band either. My husband has. I have a lot of friends that have. And so, everyone has their own opinion, but I decided to get an Aura ring and kind of see what that hubbub was about. Um, and full disclosure, I currently do not wear it. But I did for several months. There were certain aspects that I was a little bit more curious about, other things that it was just like kind of for fun. Um, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience today. All right. Um, so for people that don't know, I think we have a picture of it down here. Maybe it's just the top. So the Aura ring, it's a ring, all right, and you are supposed to wear it on either your index finger or on your middle finger. Um, and the reasoning behind that, I'm pretty sure, has a lot to do with heart rate and your heart rate variability, your HRV detection, and that it just is a more accurate capture on those fingers. So if you're someone who really only likes to wear rings, maybe on your ring finger, it's just not recommended. It's not as accurate in terms of the data. But from the initial experience, you go onto the website, their rings start off, I think, like 250 is like as low as the price it gets. And depending on the material, you can like upgrade from there. And then what I thought was really cool is they send you a sizing kit. So like you place your order, and then the first thing that goes out is the sizing kit. Um, and so I did that, and I found my size, and then ordered the ring. And then once I got the ring and started wearing it, I realized that maybe this is just me, but my fingers swell a lot overnight. And so I would wake up and this ring would be so super tight.
Ugh.
So one cool thing about the Oura Ring is they actually allow you to do one exchange on sizes once you order the actual ring. So I did the sizing kit. I was wrong, but it worked out in the end. So it's kind of, I just thought that was really cool customer service from them. But the Oura Ring, it's made to wear kind of 24/7. I thought the battery life was really good. I ended up charging my Oura Ring probably once every like 4 days-ish. And it can go to a full charge in about, I would say, like 20 to 30 minutes. So it's super quick. So instead of like a phone where you have to go, maybe several hours without it, you're not like missing a lot of capturing a lot of data because it's on the charger, if that makes sense. And then the Aura Ring, it does simple things, such as capturing your heart rate throughout the day. Everything gets pulled through into an app on your phone. So there's no like user interface on the ring itself. It's not like having like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. Everything pulls through to the app. And so you have all of your basic metrics, right? You have your heart rate variability. I know some of the like more upgraded models will do um, your like oxygen levels. Um, it will track your sleep. and it does a few different metrics that something like an Apple Watch doesn't. Um, and so I was pretty interested in just kind of like getting some of that feedback. Um, and it uses kind of all of these scores. It'll take, your heart rate, your steps throughout the day, your workouts that can be captured in it, and it comes up with like a readiness score for you. And I felt that overall my readiness score was more or less accurate. I think there were definitely days where I felt awesome, and it wasn't necessarily reflected in my readiness score. And then I had days that were the other way around where I didn't feel great, but it said I was, well recovered and ready for my day. Um, so not really as a surprise to me, but the overall kind of message that I hope everyone gets today is that these things can provide some really cool insight. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to listen to our own bodies, right? So if you feel like you slept really, really well and a wearable is telling you it was the pits, well, I'd rather you just kind of take how you feel, get in touch with your body and use that as kind of your guiding light for the day, rather than what a wearable is saying. But it does provide some good insights. So the Oura Ring in terms of sleep will show you what I thought was cool was latency, which is how long it takes you to fall asleep once you get in bed. Um, and I felt like that was accurate as long as you take into consideration that a lot of times it'll start that kind of time period. Say you're in bed and you like to read in bed before you actually turn the lights off and fall asleep. It counts that as trying to fall asleep. So sometimes those might be like a little more exaggerated. But on nights that I was, super tired and literally got in bed, turned the lights off, and fell asleep, it was kind of cool to see that capture. Um, it recognized the different sleep stages. Light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, when they occurred throughout the day, how long they were. So it was really cool to see some of those patterns over time. And there were some times where I could reflect on, oh yeah, actually, like I got plenty of sleep last night, but it did feel a little different. Maybe it felt like a little lighter and I had more vivid dreams, like things that I remembered when I woke up. Or it might be nights where I was just like, man, I was out. I don't remember a thing, right? It felt like log. And so sometimes being able to feel that and then reflect back on some of that data was really cool. Um, Another aspect of the ring I really liked was its ability to capture your body temperature in the morning upon waking, which definitely can have some patterns in terms of your menstrual cycle. And so again, sometimes it was more accurate than others for me, but I did start to see a little bit of a pattern where body temperature would rise slightly around ovulation, and then it would go back down before getting my period. Um, and it can just kind of help predict cycles like that. Um, I loved about the Oura Ring that it was like super small. So I personally wear a watch. It's actually an Apple Watch, mostly just to tell time. And I didn't want to wear like yet another thing around my wrist. So from that aspect, I really enjoyed the ring. I think that you should also think about, and I have kind of some things down here, the size of the ring. It's a little bit on the bulkier side, it's a little bit thicker, both in terms of like the height on your finger and in terms of like the thickness and how much it rises. And so it feels a little funky at times.
Does it
The
feel heavy, Casey? Like, does it feel
Um, a little bit, but you get used to it. Like it's heavier than your average, just like band, but I wouldn't say And so like you notice it when you put it on, but I wouldn't say I noticed it throughout the day.
So when you're lifting, when you're holding a barbell or dumbbell, does it scratch it or get in it?
So yeah, so that's the kind of disadvantage is that I didn't love wearing it when I was lifting. So anytime I held on to dumbbells or barbell, I wore it on my index finger and I would switch it to my middle finger because I felt like it was a little bit more comfortable that way.
Yeah.
But it definitely scratches. I mean, it's metal on metal, and so it looks more like it just got like kind of buffed. I don't have any deep hard scratches on mine, but it's not silky smooth like it was when I first took it out of the box. Um, so again, some pluses and minuses on the actual design of it. In terms of workouts, I did notice that it started to learn kind of my routine a little bit. So I lift weights in the gym. I also play a lot of tennis as part of kind of my personal cardio. And I play tennis at the same time every single week. So I think it started to pick up on that habit for me. And it would automatically log, you played tennis for 53 minutes. Other times I would look in the app and it would say I played tennis for 12 minutes when really it was maybe 90. Right. So there's a little bit of kind of jiggling you can do there. You have to go into the app and you can manually say, oh, actually it was 90 minutes, not 12. Um, I found that it really didn't capture weightlifting very well. And so if that's something that you want to be included in kind of your readiness score and your overall kind of health outputs that it gives you, that was something that I went in and manually through the app, I would say, hey, I strength trained from, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Monday morning. And that wasn't something that necessarily I thought it caught on to over time. Um, I never worried about it like in the shower or swimming or washing dishes or cooking or anything like that. I think it's really, really durable from that sense, but maybe not quite as durable in terms of like scratches and just general wear and tear. All right. Um, in terms of things that like would probably maybe a little bit on the cons for the Oura Ring. There's no built-in GPS, so if you're comparing it to an Apple Watch, it's not going to necessarily track um, where you are. It will track walks and steps. They may actually have a more GPS-friendly version now as an upgrade. I think I saw something about that, but the version that I had, you couldn't go back and like see where you walked or where you went for a run. And I know that other apps do that pretty easily. Um, I talked a little bit about the size adjustments. So definitely don't be in a hurry to with the sizing package that they sent you. Like wear it for a couple of days, use it for a few different activities. Know that you might be someone who in warmer weather, your hands swell up. That's pretty common. If you currently wear a ring, you can always just take a little bit more of a notice, like what that feels like in the morning if you sleep in your jewelry. If you don't, you can try doing that. But that was something that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But again, they have great customer service and would do that exchange. And then I did feel like some of the data was a little bit overboard. It wasn't something that like the average person necessarily could grasp onto or maybe even needed to make informed choices about their day. And that with like a few of the inaccuracies, it's kind of like it was a little bit of a choose your own adventure. I don't necessarily think though that the Aura Ring in terms of the data that it captures is like far worse or far better than some of the other wearables. I think it comes down to kind of how much do you want to spend? How do you want to wear it and use it throughout your day? And then the body temperature, I do think was like a key feature in the Aura Ring that most of the other wearables don't have. And it depends on kind of obviously what kind of person you are, right? If you kind of geek out over that data and love it, that's great. If you're someone who keeps a really consistent schedule, just know that you're probably going to keep getting the same data. And so some of that feedback might just become kind of status quo. But if you have certain health goals in terms of, looking at your HRV or improving quality and quantity of sleep, there are ways where this, I think, could be pretty helpful. All right. But at the end, I think all of us coaches are probably on the same page in terms of wanting our clients in our community to understand how to listen to their bodies first and foremost, instead of kind of relying on other wearables to tell us how we feel. And the same thing goes, it's similar to like a body weight scale, right? A lot of times I ask my clients to assess their bodies, how they're feeling in their skin, how they're feeling mentally and emotionally, and kind of capture that before stepping on the scale to weigh themselves. Because sometimes these wearables, the scales, these gadgets can have an influence on how we feel about ourselves, when really, if we kind of check in with ourselves first and we have a good kind of solid foundation for that, we can reconcile the two. And it can just be, oh, well, this is extra data, right? So maybe the scale went up because, I had some extra sodium last night. I had a really salty meal, right? Instead of I shouldn't have eaten something else, right? And I really did gain extra fat, right? Like it all comes back to, well, if I'm feeling really good in my body and I've got lots of energy and I'm sleeping well, what other wearables tell us, just I feel like that value goes down a little bit. Um, I don't know if any of the other coaches on the call today have something to add in about the wearables
Yeah.
that you've done and worn before.
Casey, have you done the Whoop band? I know
I
you.
haven't. My
Okay.
husband has, but I have not.
So I did the Whoop band, and I feel like it's from what I haven't done the Oura Ring, but from what you've explained and what I've kind of researched, I think the Whoop is more comprehensive and like better insights in regards to training. So it's really all about like your ready score, which is based on your strain. And your strain comes from physical stress, but also emotional stress. Like we went skiing one day and it was not physically taxing for me, but like logistically and like emotional stress was high, and just from like managing the kids and like, oh no, that happened, and like just kind of some stressful things that I wouldn't have thought to be a stressful day when I looked back on it, because it was like pretty leisure skiing. But my stress score was really high, and I was like, oh, that, yeah. Or if I have like intense meetings, it will track my heart rate, and just know that I'm kind of under mental stress, which I thought was really interesting, because that's not something that I ever, like, I know it's happening. And I explained to clients, our body doesn't differentiate between physical stress and mental stress and emotional stress, like a stressful conversation with a colleague or like a stressful workout. Like our body just sees it all as stress load. I mean, I'm sure there's ways it differentiates, but overall, like it all adds up for us. But it was interesting with the Whoop to see it tracked, because I have never kind of seen a metric for that really. And I thought it did an okay job of that, at least of bringing my awareness to that. But like you said with the Whoop or with the Oura Ring, I think if you get really like married to the data, then it can maybe cause more harm than good. Like it was nice and it was validating to see the data. Like if I had a really crappy night's sleep, to see like, oh yeah, no, I really did
It's
sleep.
just like, yep,
It
that
was,
didn't hit last
it was
night.
kind of validating. But then there would be other times where I would feel really good and it would say I wasn't ready. And like I could see how that could prevent someone from pushing themselves in a workout. Like their readiness score was low, but they actually felt good. And I think that kind of correlates for me with like period syncing, like syncing your training with your period, right? All of us have very different menstrual symptoms. And so deciding like I'm going to go easy every week of my period might not be the right solution for someone, where another person, like, they might need to do that. And so I thought that for someone like me that loves data and takes it as like with a grain of salt, I like doing a wearable because it's an experiment and it's enjoyable to me to like determine like, oh, that aligns with what I already think or feel, or like, oh, does that give me a little more awareness maybe that like with the mental stress that I didn't have, and is that helpful for me? And but then on the other side of it, like I wore my Whoop for 6 months and then I took it off and was like, cool, I'm good. I don't need to know if I'm ready or not anymore. Like I
Mhm.
learned what I needed to from it. It was valuable.
That's
I
kind of
don't
how I
regret
feel,
it.
right? It was really cool for a few months, and then I was like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
we're
like I'm
good.
good. But I think there's people that like, I've had an Apple Watch, and there are people that cannot function without knowing how many calories they've burned in a day from their Apple Watch, which is so sad because it's
Not
so
accurate.
inaccurate. And so it's like, if you let your wearable, I think that at the end of the day, it's like figuring out what your goal is with the wearable, because there's going to be a little bit different like benefits to each.
Hmm.
And from there, knowing that it's a small part of the picture, just like letting the scale reading in the morning dictate your self-worth, right? It's just not, the data is not there yet to, well, it should never dictate our self-worth, but to like really make any like concrete decisions for us. It's more just like helpful insights. I thought. So with the Whoop, I liked it more from a performance standpoint. They
Mm.
just added steps, and I part of me wanted to start wearing mine again because I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. I didn't
That was a
let it.
huge like complaint I remember about the Whoop,
Yes,
that you
it's
couldn't
like
track
you
your steps on it.
like I get that it's, I don't know, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
like if you're gonna have to wear a wearable, you might as well have it all on there. So I think that's cool that they added steps. So I personally would choose a Whoop over an Apple Watch now that the steps are there, because I have learned, I don't know if this is an ADHD thing or what, but when I have an Apple Watch on and I'm getting alerts, I know you can turn it off, but when I'm getting alerts from like work or the app or family members, neighbors, text messages, phone calls, all on my wrist, I think that I like that, but I can't finish the task I'm on without responding to those things. Like I would be in a hot yoga class where I'm supposed to be just like zenned out, and I would get a
Yeah.
voice text from, or I'd get a text from like a neighbor about something, and I'd be like trying to like whisper back the response on my Apple Watch. And so that, I think a Whoop is better for me in that way because it just takes my phone away. I can have like a separation if I need to from my phone. But some people, maybe the Apple Watch is better and they love to have kind of notifications on as well as their health data. And then I think with the Oura Ring, I thought if I was trying to get pregnant, I thought that would be really helpful. Like how did you feel on the ovulation? Like, did you think like from
Um,
a fertility standpoint it would be really helpful?
yeah, so like that was part of my reason why I chose the Aura ring. Um, so I mean, at a baseline, like mine isn't super regular.
Mhm.
I think if you kind of had a textbook cycle, I think it would be reflected in the Aura ring.
Okay.
Um, but it was interesting. I definitely got a spike in temperature before what I thought was me ovulating, but the spike would last, just for me, again, different lengths of time. So sometimes it would go up for 3 days, and then the fourth day would be like my period, right? Which it
Okay.
was just a little all over the place, but I think that's just me personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that the body temperature was somewhat helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I thought would be the like kind of the differentiator between the Oura Ring and the Whoop for me would be if I really wanted to hone in on like
Yeah.
tracking ovulation.
And again, I think if you're someone who's like a little bit more predictable, I think that
Mhm.
it would be reflected
That's
in
hard though,
that.
because I feel like the people that really want to pay attention to that
Yep.
aren't predictable. So maybe if you were trying to prevent, if you were trying to like not get pregnant and you were very predictable, like that could maybe be helpful.
And
Um,
you can look back on like a bunch of data, and I mean their interface is really cool. Like it is user friendly. they like explain what all of these metrics are. And if you forget it, it's like it's still there, which is nice.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny, Michaela, you were mentioning like your Apple Watch and being distracting. I remember because I've not really tracked my sleep otherwise before. I'm a
Yeah.
really good sleeper, so I've not felt the need to.
Mhm.
But with this, if I happen to like wake up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, one of my first thoughts were, oh, don't move too much because it'll get tracked in the Oura ring, right? And so in that
Yes.
way, it was almost backfiring,
You were
right?
like,
Because
the
subconsciously, I'm like
data.
trying to do something to influence the data. When really, when I just, I found that when I wasn't wearing it, it's like, yeah, I didn't think about it. And
Yeah.
it didn't
Yes.
impact
Sometimes it can
really
create
anything.
a problem that doesn't need to be created for people,
Mhm.
you know. But I think on the other side of it, if you are under a lot of stress, like it can be helpful to know and see that. So someone
Mhm.
that's overdoing it, you know, and maybe that's the Oura ring, maybe that's the Whoop, kind of depending. I think that comes down to, I think it was more like if you train a lot and want some training insights, then I would maybe lean towards the Whoop. If you are like focused on just health and wellness,
Yeah, like more lifestyle, then the Oura ring would
lifestyle,
probably
leaning
be
more towards the
better.
Oura ring. And then
Yeah.
also where you wear it, and like what's important to you there, I would say. Yeah. And the difference in price, the Whoop band is a lot more expensive monthly, but the device
Okay.
itself is pretty inexpensive, where
And
the
the
Oura
Oura is the
ring
other way around. So the
for like the
upfront cost
jewelry.
is actually purchasing the ring,
Yes.
and then the monthly cost, it was $5 a month.
Yeah. So that weighed into it a little for me too. I was like back and forth on that, but yeah, I think there's no perfect. Well, I will say the one that I do want to try that tracks like I feel like kind of the best of the Aura, the best of the Whoop, and the best of the Apple Watch would be the Garmin. There's a couple different options now, and of course, there's like I get it mixed up. Do you know which one, Marissa? Is it the
I have it on my Christmas list. Hold on.
the
I'm
new
just looking at it.
that get that I don't know. It's Garmin. There's a few options, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing about the Garmin that's kept me from buying it is it's like a bigger Apple Watch. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I need like I just don't like having anything big on my wrist or my hands really. And the Whoop was small enough that I liked. And I feel like the Apple Watch is like the biggest thing I would want on my wrist, where the Garmin Venu, I think it's the
Yeah,
V.
the 3S, the Venu 3S.
Yeah. And it's really pretty. So I think,
Pretty.
I don't know, if someone gifted it to me, I would probably wear it, but I can't decide that I want to spend the money on it. But maybe I think if I was training again for something specific, especially a cardio event, then I probably would consider that one, because the Whoop didn't give me like my running splits or anything like that, where
Mhm.
the Garmin can do
The
that.
Garmin has been good for like more endurance events, I have heard.
Yes. So I think if that's kind of something you're doing, that's
Well,
cool.
Marissa, if you get it for Christmas, maybe you can do a report back.
Yes,
I
please
will.
do.
I have the Whoop right now, and I liked it for the steps because it was that new feature. And so I do wear it for the steps, but I do feel that it's a little like too much. Like I won't move that much, and I'm like, why is it 7,000 steps? I haven't really.
It's
But
like
I'm someone that
tiny
does check in
flickering.
with my hands a lot.
Yes.
So I talk a lot
Yep.
with my hands. So I think if you talk a lot with your hands too, it is a little inaccurate with steps because
Yeah.
I'm like sitting all morning and I'm like, there is no way I have like 7,500 steps right now. So I
Yeah,
think like you have to take it with like a grain of salt.
yes, agreed. I've had like newly postpartum moms, and I'm like, how are you getting in 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day? And I found out, I think it was two clients that I've had this happen with. They were bouncing, you know, the yoga balls. They're like
Yeah.
bouncing their babies. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious.
I remember on my Apple Watch one time I was at a concert just like dancing and like doing one of these and I
Yeah.
got like 3,000 steps.
Yeah, I mean, you were active, but you know.
Active. That's okay. It's neat.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think that's so helpful to hear about because I'm always so back and forth. They are really pretty. There's that rose gold one, which of course is a extra money, but
Mhm.
I think they're pretty. I think, you know, so hopefully if that's something you've been considering, they're probably on sale for Black Friday right now still. Who
Okay.
knows?
If you guys have like more in-depth questions, I just kind of glossed the surface today.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out and send me a message.
Yeah. Thank you. Hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you all next week, our last call of the year before Christmas.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.